Hey everyone! Today we're exploring another chilling and disturbing case. If you'd like to support the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay engaged. It really means a lot. I truly appreciate it. Now, take a deep breath and let's dive in. Texas, 2019. A neighborhood stunned awake by flashing sirens and crime scene tape. Inside a modest family home, detectives discovered the lifeless body of a young woman. 22-year-old Anisha Patel. The brutal nature of the crime shocked even seasoned investigators. But as they dug deeper, they would uncover a twisted story of love, betrayal, and deadly family secrets. Anisha was the pride of her family. Intelligent, beautiful, with a bright future ahead. To the outside world, the Patels were a picture-perfect Indian immigrant family, deeply respected in their community, traditional, disciplined, and proud. But beneath that polished image, something dangerous was brewing. Anisha had a secret, one she guarded carefully from her strict parents. She was in love with Brian Miller, a co-worker. But there was one problem. Brian was an Indian. To Anisha's family, the relationship was unthinkable, a betrayal of their culture and values. To Anisha, it was her escape, her future. When her parents discovered the affair, the household turned into a war zone. Arguments, ultimatums, threats. They demanded she end it. Anisha stood her ground. She refused, and that defiance would lead to her death. One hot summer night, police were called to the Patel residence. What they found inside was horrifying. Anisha had been savagely attacked. Her body left lifeless in her own bedroom. The crime was personal, brutal, and investigators quickly began asking the one question no one wanted to believe. Could her own family be responsible? As the investigation unraveled, shocking evidence would surface. Evidence pointing not to an outsider, not to her forbidden lover, but to the very people who claimed to love her most. And what came out in court would leave the community divided forever. Detectives working Anisha Patel's case knew from the very beginning. This was not a random act of violence. There were no signs of forced entry, no robbery, nothing stolen. This was personal. And the only people inside the house that night were family. Interviews with neighbors painted a picture of a household in turmoil, shouting late at night, the sound of doors slamming, arguments that shook the walls, and then silence. Hours later, Anisha was found dead. Investigators now had to piece together what had really happened that night. When questioned, Anisha's parents were cold, distant. They claimed they had no idea what happened, that their daughter had enemies, that maybe her secret boyfriend, Brian, had something to do with it. But detectives weren't convinced. Something about their answers didn't add up. Brian Miller, devastated by Anisha's death, was pulled into the interrogation room. He broke down instantly, telling detectives about their relationship, about Anisha's plan to move out, to leave her family behind for him. He insisted he would never hurt her, and his alibi checked out. Brian was innocent, which left only one possibility. With mounting pressure, detectives turned their attention back to Patel household. Hours of questioning, silent glares, and then a crack. On the third day of interrogation, Anisha's younger brother broke. What he said sent shivers down the spine of investigators. My parents said she was ruining everything. They told me it had to be done. I didn't want to, but I helped. The confession shattered the facade. This wasn't just a crime of passion. It was a coordinated plan, an honor killing, plotted inside the family home. A murder designed to erase what they saw as shame. But the true extent of who was involved was still unclear. As the trial began, shocking secrets about the Patel family's private life emerged. Testimonies revealed twisted loyalties, disturbing justifications, and chilling details about that night. But one revelation, hidden deep within those court proceedings, would change the entire direction of the case and leave the jury speechless. The murder of Anisha Patel shook both Texas and the Indian community at large. But it was inside the courtroom where the real shockwaves would be felt. What began as a trial for murder quickly unraveled into a twisted portrait of family secrets, hypocrisy, and betrayal. Prosecutors wasted no time. They painted a chilling picture of a household obsessed with control, a family who placed honor above love. and who viewed Anisha's secret affair as a stain that had to be erased. They presented messages, threats, and finally, the brothers' devastating confession. My parents told me she left them no choice. They said if we didn't act, she would destroy the family forever. The defense, however, pushed back. They argued that the brother had been manipulated by detectives, that the Patels were strict, yes, but not killers. They tried to shift suspicion back onto Brian, the boyfriend, but the jury wasn't buying it. Brian Miller took the stand, breaking down as he described Anisha's plans to escape. He told the jury how she confided in him, terrified of her parents, but hopeful they could build a life together. His testimony silenced the courtroom. For the first time, the jury saw Anisha not just as a victim, but as a daughter fighting for freedom. And then came the bombshell. A witness stepped forward, someone from within the Patel family circle. They testified that the murder was not a sudden explosion of rage, but a carefully orchestrated plan. According to this witness, Anisha's fate had been sealed weeks before her death. What they revealed about that plan, and who exactly ordered it, would change everything. The testimony sent shockwaves to the courtroom and left even the most hardened reporters stunned. But what the jury didn't know was that another secret was still buried. A secret so dark, it threatened to tear apart not just the Patel family, but the very community they belonged to. And when it came out, it would redefine the meaning of betrayal. The trial of Anisha Patel had already revealed a chilling plot of control and betrayal. But just when the courtroom thought it had heard the worst, a darker secret emerged. A revelation so disturbing, it turned a case of honor killing into something far more twisted. A relative of the family, someone who had stayed silent for years, finally stepped forward. Under oath, they revealed what no one wanted to believe. Anisha's death had been planned long before her affair was discovered. In fact, her secret relationship was only the spark that ignited something much more sinister. This witness claimed that inside the Patel home, control wasn't just strict, it was absolute. The father ruled with fear, the mother enforced silence, and the children lived under constant surveillance. But behind closed doors, there were whispers of something darker. Whispers that Anisha had confided in a close friend about being watched, threatened, and even followed when she tried to see Brian. Sometimes I feel like I'm being punished for wanting to breathe. They say I'm dishonoring them, but I just want to live my life. As prosecutors dug deeper, one chilling possibility surfaced. This was never just about culture or honor. It was about control, about power, and about silencing a daughter who dared to defy them. Then came the most shocking revelation of all. Testimony suggested that Anisha's mother may have played a much larger role than anyone imagined. Far from being just a silent enforcer of her husband's rules, she was allegedly the mastermind, the one who planned, the one who demanded, the one who decided Anisha would never leave. The idea of a mother orchestrating her own daughter's murder left the courtroom frozen. Reporters described the silence as unbearable. Jurors exchanged nervous glances. And Brian Miller, Anisha's boyfriend, sat in shock as a possibility set in. Anisha hadn't just been betrayed by her parents, she'd been betrayed by the very woman who gave her life. But the story doesn't end there. Because in the days that followed, investigators uncovered evidence, hidden messages, secret meetings, and a disturbing pact that suggested the murder of Anisha Patel was not only premeditated, but that someone outside the family may have helped carry it out. The Patel trial was already unraveling into a storm of betrayal and horror. But as investigators dug deeper, they made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the case. Evidence suggested that the family had not acted alone. Someone outside their household had helped carry out the brutal murder of Anisha Patel. Cell phone records told a story the family had tried to hide. The night Anisha was killed, there were multiple calls made. Calls of a family friend, a man who had been close to Patels for years. On the surface, he was a respected figure in the community. But behind closed doors, his loyalty to the family ran dangerously deep. Detectives confronted him, and after hours of interrogation, cracks began to show. He admitted to being at the house that night. He claimed he was only there to calm things down. But investigators weren't convinced. Blood traces on his clothing and inconsistencies in his story painted a different picture. He wasn't a mediator, he was an accomplice. The revelation stunned the courtroom. The Patel family had not acted in isolation. They had enlisted help to cover up their daughter's death. But why? What was so important, so unforgivable, that it required outside involvement? Prosecutors argued it was about ensuring silence, about making sure Anisha could never speak her truth, not to Brian, not to friends, not to anyone. For Brian Miller, the man who loved Anisha, the betrayal was unbearable. Not only had he lost her, but now he realized it was conspiracy. People he had met, smiled at, even trusted, had worked together to destroy the woman he loved. But as the trial pressed forward, one more revelation emerged. Investigators found hidden messages exchanged between the alleged accomplice and Anisha's parents. Messages that hinted at motives far more disturbing than just honor or family pride. Motives that suggested something deeper, darker, and more sinister was driving this crime. And when the truth of those messages came out, it would leave the jury, the community, and even the investigators questioning everything they thought they knew about the Patel family. The real question became, was this truly an honor killing or something much, much darker? The Patel murder trial had already exposed betrayal, control, and conspiracy. But what prosecutors revealed next pushed the case into chilling new territory. Anisha's murder wasn't just about honor. It wasn't just about reputation. It was about something much more sinister. Investigators uncovered a string of hidden messages between Anisha's parents and the alleged accomplice. These weren't the words of people panicked about their reputation. These were cold, calculated exchanges that spoke of purity, of obedience, and of making sure Anisha would never corrupt the younger children in the family. Prosecutors argued that the motive wasn't only about honor, it was psychological. A twisted obsession with control. They claimed the Patel parents were so consumed by fear of losing their authority that they would rather destroy their daughter than allow her to break free. Anisha's relationship with Brian wasn't just rebellion to them. It was a threat to their entire rule over the household. And then came the most disturbing allegation. That was Anisha's mother, not her father, who had pushed hardest for her death. Witnesses testified that she referred to Anisha as poison, that she spoke of her daughter's love as a disease infecting the family. Prosecutors painted her as the true mastermind, the one who demanded silence, who called in the accomplice, and who made sure her daughter would never leave. The motive was clear. This wasn't just an honor killing. It was about power, control, and a mother's terrifying willingness to sacrifice her own child to preserve it. The jury sat in stunned silence. The community, once supportive of the family, now recoiled in horror. But just when it seemed the full story had been told, the defense dropped a revelation of their own. A shocking accusation that someone else in the family may have played a far darker role than anyone had imagined. And when that accusation hit the courtroom, the trial was turned upside down. Loyalties shattered, allegiances flipped, and the question everyone thought was answered, who killed Anisha Patel, was suddenly thrown wide open again. For weeks, the Patel trial had peeled back layer after layer of lies and darkness. The prosecution painted a picture of control and conspiracy. The defense fought to shift blame, but in the end, it wasn't the lawyers who shook the courtroom. It was a betrayal that came from inside the family itself. Under oath, Anisha's younger brother, one seen as a silent participant in the family's strict traditions, turned against his own parents. With his voice shaking, he revealed chilling details that prosecutors had long suspected but never been able to prove. They told me if I didn't help, I would be next. My mother said Anisha was no longer her daughter. She said she was dead to us even before that night. The brother described being forced to restrain Anisha while his parents carried out the attack. He confessed to holding her down, terrified, as she struggled for her life. His testimony was gut-wrenching, an image of a daughter begging for freedom, silenced by those who should have protected her. But then, his testimony took an even darker turn. He claimed that after the murder, it wasn't his father who covered up the crime. It wasn't even the outside accomplice. It was his mother, calm, meticulous, and unshaken, who cleaned the blood, burned the evidence, and ordered everyone in the house to stay silent. The courtroom froze. The betrayal wasn't just against Anisha. It was against the very idea of family itself. mother, orchestrating the destruction of her own child and forcing her son to be complicit. But just when it seemed the truth had finally come out, the defense delivered a shocking counterattack. They produced evidence, hidden recordings that suggested the younger brother wasn't telling the full story, evidence that hinted he may have had his own reason for wanting Anisha gone. And with that revelation, the trial took a horrifying turn. Was the brother truly a victim, or was he far more involved than anyone realized? The answer would tear apart everything the jury thought they knew. For months, the Patel trial had gripped Texas. A daughter murdered, a family divided, lies, betrayal, and confessions that turned against one another. But in the final days, the jury would hear the most shocking revelations of all: the truth about who killed Anisha Patel and why. The defense played hidden recordings, conversations between Anisha's younger brother and friends in the weeks before her death. On those tapes, he spoke bitterly about Anisha. He resented her. He feared she would expose family secrets. And in one chilling line, he admitted, "If she leaves, it destroys us all. I won't let it happen." Suddenly, the boy who had cast himself as a victim was under suspicion. Prosecutors argued he was pressured. The defense painted him as a manipulator, perhaps even the true driving force. And for the jury, the question became impossible to ignore. Was the brother coerced, or was he complicit? Brian, the man Anisha loved, sat in anguish as the family tore itself apart in front of him. All he wanted was justice for her. But justice seemed clouded by the fog of lies, shifting blame, and betrayal within betrayal. After weeks of testimony, the jury reached its verdict. The father, guilty of murder. The mother, guilty of conspiracy and obstruction. The accomplice, guilty of aiding and abetting. And the younger brother, his fate hung in the balance. Would the jury see him as a victim of his parents' control, or as a willing executioner of his own sister? When the verdict was read, the courtroom erupted. Tears, screams, gasps. And for the first time since that night, the true story of Anisha Patel's final moments finally came to light. Anisha Patel was a young woman who dared to choose love over fear. For that, she paid the ultimate price. Her story is not just about honor, culture, or family. It's about control, betrayal, and the darkness that can live where we least expect it. A daughter silenced, a family destroyed, and a community left to ask, how far will people go to protect their pride? This is the haunting legacy of the Texas tragedy. In memory of Anisha Patel, justice may come, but healing never ends. What are your thoughts on this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more stories, where each case isn't just about crime, but also offers a lesson for life.